There's a major
No.
movie, of course, that just released in Thor: Love and Thunder. So we'll kick things off with that right away. For you guys who have seen it already, I haven't seen it yet. It's one of those things that if I have a chance to get away with probably a kid or two to go to the theater, we will. Otherwise, it's a wait and watch situation, which is fine. I'm growing accustomed to that, and I'm actually learning to be okay with like, what if I'm not part of the conversation immediately? Turns out everything's fine. Like I haven't lost anything because of that. So, this is just me personally. I don't know if I'm because I'm getting older or what it
So
is. I
I
feel
mean,
less of a push to like I have to see it when everyone else sees it first, and then that's just becoming less of a thing for me. I don't know why.
have
Even
you
though I'm
seen
very excited for this movie, I am.
have you seen Doctor Strange yet? The new one?
It's on Disney Plus now.
it
No, I
is.
have not
Yeah.
watched it yet.
So has anything been spoiled for you? Like, there's so many cameos
There's
in that
been
movie.
there's been a meme or two,
Yeah.
but I won't say what they are
But
just in case
context
someone else
matters
hasn't
more
seen
for
it.
you. You would say context,
Yeah,
like
there
in the
hasn't been
film,
anything that
matters.
I feel like great now I know what happens. I mean, I already
Yeah.
knew it's multiverse. They're going to show some crazy stuff. And
Yeah.
even before you guys saw it and said there's lots of cameos, I knew like they're going to show all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I thought of like what if and what they did.
Right.
So I just kind of assumed we're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff. So I think I've seen a
Mhm.
meme or two or a GIF or two, but that's all died down. And,
Awesome.
Well, that's good.
same with Spider-Man No Way Home. I
Spider-Man. Yeah.
with Spider-Man,
Spider-Man?
Phil
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man, Phil Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
And with No Way Home, I feel like even though I kind of had an idea of what was going to happen, when I saw it, I was very pleasantly surprised and excited when certain
That's
things
awesome.
happened, and it was great. I loved
That
it.
was the thing I was worried about most for people like you that can't like always get to the theater like
Yeah.
opening weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, the movie's totally ruined for them, and it's not. It's
No.
really not.
No, No
That's
Way
cool.
Home is still one of my favorite Marvel movies, and
Yeah.
it's by far my favorite of the current phase of Marvel movies. Like it's not even
Yeah.
remotely close.
I don't think it's close at all. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
fun.
it's been a sleepy phase, guys.
It's
Yeah.
been a
Yeah.
sleepy phase.
Yeah.
It's been a sleepy phase of Marvel movies. But speaking of which, tell me what you guys think. We already kind of chatted about this beforehand. We're not going to do a spoiler chat, so don't worry, no spoilers here in this discussion. But just some spoiler-free thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder, especially from Jeff and Kyle. Dan, you didn't see it yet, did you?
No, but I did have an important question. So I know they censor it in the trailers, but how big is Thor's dong?
Oh, his dong. They don't show his dong. They show.
It's
his-
just a- it's just
so in
a
my
hammer.
screening we actually we saw full helmet.
It's
but,
just it's Mjolnir just hanging there.
That's what he calls it. He calls it his Mjolnir.
yeah, right.
grabs his
He
hammer.
used
Play
his butt. That's
explicitly.
it. Just his
Yeah, his very well chiseled. I wasn't looking, but I wasn't
Yeah.
looking. I
This
wasn't
is one of
lingering.
these like.
I wasn't lingering.
Looking respectfully. Looking
Yeah.
respectfully.
Like this wasn't even-
Respectfully, respectfully. That's the thing now, right? Is
Yeah.
respectfully.
Cartoon sound
Respectfully.
effect.
Yeah, peeking.
I thought the movie was very funny. You could tell that someone was just like, hey, just make a comedy, you know? Like you really wanted to make a comedy last movie and it just be a comedy. This has like even absurdist humor, which like, and I mean that like in the actual definition of what that means. Like there is literal absurdist humor in this movie, and I think it works. You know, I think it makes it unique. You know, there's definitely nothing in this phase like this movie for sure. You know, but I think like a lot of things this phase, a lot of these movies are kind of about singular experiences, singular arcs, singular stories, and stuff like that. So I would say all movies, you know, this phase have not really pushed anything forward, you know, in terms of like what the major new plot is. I'd say maybe Loki has pulled the most, you know, legwork on that. And even then, like, where's the TVA and all this stuff that's going on? Not even in this movie, but in everything that's gone on since the TVA's been invented.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but that's been the show or the thing I think of the phase that's been like, hey, this is kind of, you know, we use the word Kang, you know, sorry for you know, is that a spoiler for a year-old TV show at this point, but whatever. You know, but
I mean, new big bad, right? You know.
I think what Jeff and I were saying
Potentially.
in the chat was like, you really can't spoil this movie. We're not going to spoil a year. We're not going to go into details or anything like that. But like, there's not a lot to spoil. It's a comedy. It's a straight comedy from start to finish, where it's using all of its screen time to tell jokes. You know what I mean? And again, if that mileage is going to vary for people. People are coming in trying to see a movie where like the next Thanos plot line is like, like growing, and this is all in marketing. I'm not like spoiling anything. That's not this movie. Kevin Feige said that in the coming months we're going to finally learn like what the new like big threat is, going forward. I imagine it's going to be San Diego Comic-Con trailer or something like that for something.
Some of Comic-Con, some is D23. D23 is this year. So.
D23, I forgot about that. Yeah. So
and I'm curious if it's going to be like just like boom Avengers movie, or like what is it going to be?
I don't know, man.
That it's going to be like boom, here he is. Like
Thunderbolts will probably be the first team.
Thunderbolts
after
feels
Guardians
like it's going to be first. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Young Avengers feels like that's the natural thing that's being set up right now.
I
So
agree.
can I ask you about Thor: Love and Thunder? Like your background right now, Kyle, for those listening, is a picture of Christian Bale as Gore, who's I love the makeup they
Taking
did.
such a steamy dump in that scene.
Spoilers.
That is a spoiler. Yeah,
That is pretty funny. But by the way, I mean, I just think I've never seen him truly phone in a role in anything I've seen him in.
Sure.
Yeah.
In general, would you say he really gives it a full Christian Bale performance here? And if so, like, how does that fit in with the comedy thing? Because nothing that I saw in the trailers or that I'm seeing even in that picture looks like comedy. Like, how do they balance that? How well do they balance that?
Yeah, so that's a really good observation, because I have been pitching this as a really. He's menacing, like he's rightfully creepy. He's got a presence about him, and he's a really well written bad guy.
Okay.
Not a lot of. It's a 2-hour movie, so you're not like diving into a lot lot of like the
one of the
depth
shorter
this
Marvel
character.
movies recently.
It
right?
is, yeah,
Like 2
absolutely.
hours.
Yeah. So, but the only thing I could say is I would just like more of them. Just like if the movie were 3 hours long and we could get an hour more of him, I'd be very happy with that. But I also really like being out of the theater in 2 hours too. That was pretty. Was toy.
Yeah, that was
toy.
epic. That was,
the most epic part of the movie. Was like, I'm out of here by 10. This is.
Can we
great.
pause real quick? Do you guys see what James Cameron said about people being mad about the runtime of Avatar?
The fact that
Yeah.
he is pre-defending his
Shut
movie
up.
so hard.
Did you see it,
tells me
Jeff? Did you
so
see what he
much
said?
about the sequel?
Yeah,
what did he say?
He's basically calling anybody that criticizes the length of his movie a-holes, I guess. And he's using colorful language. He's just like, oh, you binge watch shows for like 10 hours. And I'm like, yeah, because we can pause the show, idiot. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well,
In a
and
movie
he even
theater, you
says
can't do
like,
that. You
let's.
miss
He
things.
basically says like, let's normalize getting up to go pee if you need to, and it's like, dude,
I
we're gonna
agree
miss
with
part
that,
of your.
but then he
But we're gonna miss
kind
part
of-
of your movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you can't pause it in the theater. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm not going to
He's,
see it again.
Sorry, I know that took
Spoilers.
us off the rails.
No,
I'm not
absolutely
gonna see that
I
movie
love bringing
twice.
up Avatar. It's my favorite.
I'm not going to see that.
Okay, so let's
I'll
get
see
back
it
to
once.
but
Theater.
Jeff, I've been talking a lot. Like you
Let's get
really
back
like
to
Gore,
Thor: Love and
you know?
Thunder.
Yeah. You like Gore as a character, right? Like
Yeah. And Christian Bale's performance is, it's not surprising. Christian Bale is like unfreaking believable in almost every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought this could have been an opportunity for him to just be like, oh, sweet Marvel money. I'm just going to phone it in. He did not at all. That scene where he's
Doing
behind
that.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just mid talking and it just looks awkward. But
Yeah.
but he's like, his monologuing is just so effing good. Like
Yeah.
it's such
He's
good
chewing
villain
scenery.
speak. Yeah. It's oh man. I
feel like
would have
that's-
loved to have gotten more of him.
I feel
for
like that's
sure.
what sounds disorienting because you are like describing it as mostly a comedy, and it's like, and also taking so not even against Gore, but like with the events that have happened prior, like to go that hard into the genre of comedy just seems kind of disorienting, really.
Well,
right?
that's part of the juxtaposition of the movie. It be ultraviolet, colorful stuff like the back of Jeff's thing, and ultra monochrome stuff. Like there's kind of a shadow realm versus light realm type of thematic motif going on there, and that's replicated by the juxtaposition of the serious tones of this like horrifying god killer and this wacky Thor adventure that he's on. And that's what it is. It's wacky. Like everything about like that stuff that's happening with Thor is wacky. And then it will shift suddenly to like something that Gore's doing, and you're like, oh, I forgot that there's some stuff going on here.
The psychopath.
But then it flips back to Thor, and he's getting his clothes flicked off or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, we're having a good time again. All right, this is cool. So like there is kind of a whiplash effect of tones there, but I feel like it's part of the thematic juxtaposition that's going on all over this movie.
I'm just thinking of like the sort of emotional turmoil that literally Thor went through with the snap and everything that happened with Thanos, and like this is him like post that, like being fat Fat Thor, and then like working out, right?
This
and
is our
then
first
like,
time seeing.
I wouldn't
him, right?
dwell on the Endgame stuff. They spend 5 minutes on anything
but I'm
Yeah,
that
saying
yeah.
happened
like,
in Endgame.
you know, it's like that stuff happened and that was intense.
They
but
did,
it's like,
and they didn't focus on it in this movie at all.
What do
I
you guys
felt
think
like
about them
that.
not
I felt like
focusing
that was a
on
missed opportunity, honestly.
Yeah, same. This wasn't. They weren't doing an Iron Man 3 where they're telling a PTS story, PTSD story about like
No.
Iron Man being like, boy, I really like, whoa, I was.
Yeah,
dying."
I don't think they should have done
But
PTSD.
no, not PTSD, but just like a post kind of traumatic.
Yeah,
you know,
he
like,
seemed
survival
unsure of
story.
who he should be.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? At the end of Endgame, and in this movie, they didn't really touch on that like at all. The trailers made it seem
I
like
feel like they bring it up at the beginning, but he kind of goes on a different type of emotional journey without
Yeah.
giving
Dad
anything
bod
away.
to God bod.
Yeah, I mean, he's
he does that
great
pretty
too.
quick. He does
Yeah,
that pretty
that's
quick.
all. That's all. You know,
Yeah,
that's all.
most
He's
of
a
the
god.
trailer. Most of the trailer is fit Hemsworth. You know what I mean? Like,
And I would say
Right.
most of what you've seen in all the trailers is from most of it's from like the first
The first act.
the opening.
Yeah.
10
I
minutes.
would even say just the
Yeah.
opening 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty true.
And there's like a zany, really zany, really fun action moment at the very beginning of the movie.
probably
that
my
made
favorite
me
part of the
go,
whole movie.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of the whole movie. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a big swing. And then it kind of wasn't as much compared to the first
Gotcha.
action sequence. So I was kind of like, I don't know, until the Shadow Realm fight that they had, which you all will see what I'm talking about. It's involves no color, and then there's some color in certain shots.
Oh, cool.
Shot really
So
well.
good.
Yeah.
So
it's
good.
in the trailer. You know, you'll see
Yeah.
like a second of it, but it's
Yeah,
a pretty
yeah.
long, elaborate scene, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Creepy
You
too.
know,
It's good and creepy.
but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Phase 4 is all about like stepping up to take big swings and then not. Doctor Strange was kind of that way, you know. Like it's just like there's a lot of even like Far From Home in a lot of ways. Like it's like no big multiversal, you know, ripples happen from that movie. You know, everything kind of just neatly kind of ends at the end. Like nothing's
Yeah.
teeing up really anything. Again, like that was kind of a Spider-Man story.
yeah.
Doctor Strange was just a Doctor Strange story. This is just a Thor story. So
Yeah.
Like there was a
we're-
quick mention of the Spider-Man stuff in
Doctor Strange. Yeah.
Doctor Strange movie, but like it was
Yep.
just kind of mentioned. It was like, oh yeah, that thing.
with a
And-
character that was in both of those movies and he wasn't talking about it much, which is kind of weird, you know. But
Right,
like,
yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's not about that this phase, and I'm
Right,
okay with
right.
that. But I'm also kind of ready. We're all here because of how well that works,
Yes,
you know, how well
connecting
like
how
the
it's
puzzle.
connected.
Yeah, and it was always really unique of how they were doing that, and it feels like a lot of that stuff has been missing, and which is fine. But I feel the lack of big swings or teeing up for big swings and then not taking them with this movie as well, Jeff. And there's some stuff that kind of goes on in the third act that I just, yeah.
Oh, Kyle went to a
But
movie.
I actually really like this movie too. But there's some stuff
Yeah.
that kind of there's some goofy stuff, you know.
That was my first question to Kyle about the movie when we had a private chat. Was so what did you really think of this aspect of the plot? Because it's not in the trailers that this is a thing, so I'm not going to spoil it. And he was like, "Yeah, I hated it," and I was like, "I kind of knew you would."
Yeah.
Kinda-
I knew
'cause
you
I just-
would.
We talked about this before on the show and whatever.
Oh, he gets
What I'm
you.
trying not to spoil.
He
So I
gets
was
me,
like,
yeah.
so I was like, Kyle probably hated that, and I didn't. It was just a weird thing to me. Like it was like totally unnecessary. And when you guys see it, we'll dive into that more.
Yeah.
But yeah, the humor didn't. I don't know. I
Does
think
it land?
I feel like
That's the key. You
entire-
talk a lot about the jokes. Does it land? Is it funny?
Kyle liked the humor more than I did in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was with. I don't know. I always feel like there's an aspect like when you're with people, like maybe you laugh a little more. I was with a group of people,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
we were all laughing. You know, the
We-
4 other people in the theater were laughing.
I had a really full showing, and they were all like laughing more than me. I mean, a lot of them were laughing more than me. But I'm so used to at the end of Marvel movies getting that applause at the credits, and that didn't happen this time. I feel like I felt people in the auditorium feeling a little cold on the ending,
Kind
and,
of
like,
pulled back a little
where
bit.
the third
maybe.
act went and stuff like that.
Mm.
I found that to be interesting. But yeah, the first like 20 minutes was like awesome. I was just having a blast. There was some zany stuff. It was funny. And then I don't know. It was just kind of like okay after that. Like that's how I felt about it. I was just like, this is okay. Until the Shadow Realm fight. Again, that's just one of the best things Marvel's ever like allowed on one of their things. Visually,
Cool.
it's just so cool. Yeah, I don't know. I just expected. Maybe I had my hopes too high. Taika has never missed. Never in anything he's done. Even his non-Marvel, whatever, his indie stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I put too much. I don't know. Maybe I put too much stock in this movie.
Yeah, maybe this one. It's fair to say that it doesn't sound like it was a miss by any stretch, but it does sound maybe like he didn't get full contact like he did with some of the other stuff.
And the Rotten Tomatoes score, I know it's an aggregate, but it's like somewhere in the high 60s, 70, and I feel like that's about right. Like to me, that feels right. Some people love it more. I've seen more people in the middle on this movie, and then there's like some of scattered people that absolutely love it. I have yet to encounter somebody that's just like, oh, this is abomination. So I mean, at least there's that.
That's good. That means that's like a high floor, right? So like maybe the ceiling is, but like high floor, which is I think that's not bad either.
And I think those people that hate this movie already didn't like Ragnarok. They were already like, oh, I didn't like the jokes. Or I don't like.
If
funny
you didn't
things.
like Ragnarok, you're gonna hate this movie. Like, and that's just a fact because like
it's more Taika. Yes,
it's more Taika, and it's just turned all the way up. You know, and again, like because people were like, well, I don't know, it was just a little too funny sometimes. I wanted them to tell a serious story. There's like not a serious story going on here, except for this guy who's just a little creepy sometimes. You know, but outside of that,
Jane's got a pretty heavy story. Too.
I guess she does. You're right, and she actually has a really good arc. And I actually, we haven't really talked about her. I love everything about her in this movie. So
there were some things I felt could have been handled a little more effectively, but in the beginning of her arc. But other than that, I mean, I love that she didn't know how to be a superhuman, like super powered person. Like that was my favorite part of her role is that she's a human being that suddenly has superpowers, and she's still a nerd, and she still doesn't know how to do quips. So the whole movie, she's got like this whole thing where she's like, I don't know what my catchphrase could be. I don't know how to be a badass.
I'm really glad to hear that because in the trailer they almost make her. She doesn't talk a whole lot, so this was me assuming like, but she's just super cool and awesome superhero now. I'm so glad to hear that
she's such
they
a
give
nerd,
her that over eagerness.
So funny that like
I'm glad to hear that.
That like she's the most eager of all of them to fight.
Love it.
She is.
I mean, Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is adorable. Like she just has that energy, right?
And there's a layer of cuteness to it when like there's a moment where like they're like, do we attack now? And they and I think Valkyrie says yes, and she's like, yeah, she gets so jacked. It's like so adorable.
Oh, good.
It's good to see her
Natalie
show
Portman's
up
great.
for a Thor movie, you know. So it's like you're so used to her showing up, and she's like, yeah, I'm just the girlfriend, you know. I'm bored of being here, and like she's putting in a very Padme-esque, you know, love of acting, you know. And in this one, like she's really like she showed up to have fun.
And she got all muscly. I respect
everything about her in this movie. I thought she like was one of the things that really worked for me. So
she is an actress who I think she's very talented, but I do think she's got the potential to phone it in certain roles. I've seen her in some stuff, and I'm like, all right, she didn't really care as much about this particular thing. And I think there was elements of that in the first two Thor movies. Not a lot, but there was there. But I think I've seen it in other reviews and hearing you guys say it. Like I'm excited to see what they do with her character. Nothing that
I like what they do with her
the
character, but I still don't feel the chemistry between her and Chris Hemsworth.
That's never really been strong.
Yeah, so
that didn't get suddenly fixed. No.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate.
But nothing you're saying or the 70% or less on Rotten Tomatoes, none of that makes me not less excited to see this. I love Taika Waititi. I think he does hilarious stuff. Even his role in Free Guy, I thought was hilarious. Like and his voice as
Korg.
Korg, thank you. I think in this he's so fun. I just think he's so funny. And then all of his TV shows that he's done, I just think he's so funny.
So I think my two favorite aspects of the movie is like the Shadow Realm, Christian Bale. Well, I guess they're three. Christian Bale's performance, and then I'll just say goats. Let's just say goats, and you'll have to figure out what I mean by that.
Right over your shoulder there, like. So
number one. That's my number one favorite.
I can see a goat right beside your face there, Jeff.
They definitely do some things with the goats. That's
they're
funny.
the whole movie. It's a movie long running gag. Yeah.
Also, Russell Crowe. They got Russell Crowe, and he didn't phone it in. And he has been notorious for phoning it in on big
Didn't
movies.
he retire from acting? Actually,
no.
Didn't he retire? No, I thought he did.
But and what was funny too about Zeus, I don't know that it comes across in the trailers, but he is. Sorry, I'm fixing my Skype. He is doing a Greek accent, and I thought that was hilarious. because Zeus is a Greek god, so it makes sense that he would do a Greek accent. We've just never heard that before.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And like it's usually British or some crap. So like that, I thought that was like a really
he
fun.
went out of his way to learn a British accent for this movie, and it's
Okay,
like,
the
it's
only
very,
the only spoiler question I want
Or
to ask
Greek.
is when Thor gets disrobed, does Russell Crowe say, "Are you not entertained?" Is that what he says in that moment?
That's
He
such
has
a
many
missed
opportunities to
opportunity.
say that, and he doesn't to say
He
it.
God
never
damn
does.
it.
Now I hate
In
the movie.
fact, he
Thanks,
raises his hands and he's almost
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He almost said, "Are
He was waiting for Chris
you
to say
good?
it.
Are
when-
you guys good? Or
Are you good? You guys good over
When
there?
Are you good?
When the robe came off, he was waiting for Thor to say it, right? Is that
Yeah,
what it was?
that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Are you not entertained?
All right. So there's your first impressions
And
of
the,
Thor: Love and Thunder.
two
Oh,
post-credit scenes, by the way? Just I
Okay.
mean, obviously, but I just still want to say it because some people still
Does that feel like
wanna
it
leave.
kind of connects to the larger next Marvel thing?
not really,
No.
not really.
It's
It
cool.
feels
You're
cool.
you're gonna like it
They're
for sure.
really
Tim.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
One,
gonna
the
like
middle one
I'll
got
like it.
people
Okay,
to go
good.
Yeah,
ooh,
you're gonna-
like in my
yeah,
theater,
this-
like they
This
were kind of
one that
excited.
you're gonna like specifically. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
there's,
yeah,
there's
that's true, that's
post-credit
true.
sequence, mid and post-credit sequences that sometimes they are like, ooh, that's leading into the next
Right,
thing.
right.
And then there's
Yeah,
ones with like
there's-
Howard the Duck sitting in the
Yeah,
remember
the
that one with
silly
the
ones, I
collector?
love the
At like
silly
the
ones,
very
yeah.
end,
Yeah.
which is like,
There's
geez,
there's
thanks.
one in,
Yeah.
in Doctor Strange that is
I
like
stayed
the
for
most cliched type of one that I normally don't like in movies at all.
Okay.
But because it's Marvel, I'm like, well, I kind of know who that is, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But this is like everything I don't like
That's what
about.
they're banking on too. They're like,
Yeah.
they'll do the work themselves. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We'll show a character, they'll look it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Somebody
they'll
starts
find
yelling
it.
like, "Oh, it's that!"
Exactly. Someone in the theater, that's Colossus or whatever.
Yeah.
One of these times I want them just to show a clip from Inspector Gadget where Dr. Claw's petting his cat. Next time, Gadget. That's all it is. It's just that. Yeah. Thank Kyle. That was great.
See, I would say Kang
That
could
was
be the
perfect.
next big bad, but he is in the next Ant-Man movie as like the lead villain.
Oh.
So I'm
Well,
like,
there's-
oh man, if they address him in one movie, I'll be really
But
mad.
there's multiple. That's the thing with Kang, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
multiple. So
Lots of kings. There's a council
Yeah.
of kings.
right. So that's the
If
thing
you
with
add
Kang.
one more K, it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Yeah.
I feel like
Council's not
they're
limited.
they're gonna like this phase has just kind of been like fun one-offs, and I feel like they're putting the future of MCU in Secret Invasion. I feel like that's what it's gonna be, and this is just
Yeah.
a hunch. It's just
Oh,
a hunch.
okay.
I feel like that's what it's gonna be because at a certain point, the skulls, whatever,
Skrulls
start
yeah, Skrulls.
taking over heroes. Like they start pretending to be like Thor or whatever, and they
Right.
start doing horrible things, and like that, it creates a conflict of like, I'm gonna have to go fight Thor or whatever, and then they look for the real Thor, and then there's a fight between
Yeah.
Hero McGee and Thor. I can't
Yeah,
even
it's like
think of a
another type
second
of
hero.
civil war.
Which,
It's a
I mean-
it's a reason to get like heroes to fight heroes and stuff
Exactly,
like that.
Which is still
exactly.
like Nick Fury's thing, right? Because isn't he hanging out with like right now we think they're good guys, right? But there's a Secret Invasion show coming
Yeah,
out,
right now they're chummy. They're chummy with the Skrulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Like-
And we could still be building towards secret wars as well, where it's
Yeah.
like you're fighting in Battle World with all the
Dude,
other like variants and stuff like that.
The
That's cool.
X-Men still have to show up. Like there's still
Yeah.
all of that
That's
going
never
on.
gonna
so-
happen. They're never showing up.
Hey man,
I want to pump the brakes all the way on that.
have you guys seen the
because-
headline about Taron Egerton
I was
possibly
just
being
gonna
Wolverine?
ask
I
that.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I watched his new two
He'd be
two
great in
episodes
that
dropped
role,
of his
man.
new show. His new show called Blackbird
Yeah.
on Apple TV, whatever. And he is ripped.
Yeah,
He
is
got
he?
insanely ripped. Like you can
Yeah.
tell
Nice.
he's gonna take Wolverine seriously. Like he's gonna be jacked.
Dude, he's
not
a
as
really
huge,
good. He's
not
a
as
really
huge
good
as
actor.
Jackman, but
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
He never should have been that big, but like I'm tall.
Yeah, I know,
wise.
he was 6
like,
foot
Ed-
tall.
Edgerton's like a lot
Yeah.
smaller guy too,
Yeah,
right?
he's-
Or
he's
whatever.
shorter, yeah.
He's
Yeah,
more
so
he
like,
makes
this is-
sense. He makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good pick, and you can just have him grow some mutton chop sideburns out, put a cigar in his mouth,
Yeah,
man.
he's
I
gotta-
see it, dude.
he's
I
gotta
gotta
get hairy.
I can see it. And he's young enough to be able to do it for several movies.
Right.
They
I
gotta pull
remember-
the trigger on that X-Men stuff. I'm
Like
so sick and tired
early
of waiting of
30s.
that stuff.
I
Dude,
remember
for real,
back.
So sick and tired of it.
Let's go. Yeah.
I remember back in the, I forget what year it was. It was like late '90s, early 2000s when the rumblings at one point was between Russell Crowe maybe and someone else potentially to get that. I remember Russell Crowe being
Oh,
mentioned
really?
as a potential Wolverine and thinking like he would be great. And then I was like, who's this Hugh Jackman guy? Never heard of him. He looks too.
He was like
thin.
last pick too.
Yeah, who is this guy? He's too
He
skinny.
did
And then I
Broadway.
watched
He
X-Men.
did
I watched-
Broadway. He's
literally sang
Australian.
in musicals.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I watched the first X-Men. I was like, oh, All
He's
right.
a, yeah, he's
All right, yeah,
And
exactly.
especially X2, especially
Yeah,
X2.
especially X2.
Oh
Absolutely.
man, that's when
Yeah.
you see him at his most Wolverine.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And then, of course, with it all culminating with
Logan.
Logan, I'm just
Yeah.
like, dude,
Logan.
he's perfect for this.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
so
The Batman Begins, or not Batman Begins, the Dark Knight of like
Yeah,
X-Men
yeah.
movies, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
absolutely.
Just, like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's up there. It's still up there for me in like top 5, top 3 even of like best comic book
Yeah,
adaptations.
same,
Like,
same.